Hi, it's Katrina. From an enormous fortress to an abandoned prison, here are 9 of the most haunted historical places in the world. Number 9. Citadel Laferriere. Located on Haiti's northern coast, the Citadel is a very imposing fortress that sits on top of a mountain 3,500 feet high. It is steeped in scandal and superstition, but it is so impressive that some even call it the 8th wonder of the world. Built in the early 19th century by a general named Henry Christophe, it is a universal symbol of liberty, since it is one of the first monuments constructed by former black slaves who had fought for their freedom and independence. After 14 years of fighting, the leader of the revolution, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, declared that the Republic of Haiti was now independent. After the death of Dessalines, Henry Christophe declared himself king. Just because they were independent didn't mean that things were peaceful. The structure is the largest fortress in the Americas, made up of 4 buildings that are protected by 4 enormous towers. It was designed to provide living space, storage space, and water supply for up to 5,000 people for up to a year. Its location on high ground was strategically chosen to make it difficult for enemies to attack, and the citadel was designed with the same concept in mind, with steep sides that drop off directly into the mountainside, and a triangular front wall jutting out towards the road, limiting the view of the structure's profile. It took 20,000 former slaves around 15 years to complete the fortress, with rumors saying that the work was so difficult, half of them died in the process. King Christophe built an enormous palace for himself and lived there until he died. During his reign, he would line up a few of his soldiers and make them march over the edge of the citadel, plunging to their death just to show how brave they were. The fortress was built to defend Haiti against a forceful return of French forces, but this never happened, and its 365 cannons were therefore never put to use. Now you can visit the fortress for yourself, and maybe even catch a glimpse of mad King Henry Christophe lurking through the hallways. While the view of the surrounding landscape and the coast down below is nothing short of amazing, the fortress also carries eerie overtones, leading one visitor to describe it as one of the most awe-inspiring yet creepy places I've ever been. Number 8. Church Hill Tunnel. Built in 1873, the Church Hill Tunnel is a sealed train tunnel beneath Jefferson Park in Richmond, Virginia, that looks like it was doomed from the start. It was already considered obsolete by the time it was abandoned in 1902. The city of Richmond attempted to restore the 4,000-foot-long tunnel in 1925, but a huge section of it collapsed during construction as a 10-car locomotive passed through. At least 2 workers died, while some managed to escape and survived. Legend has it that the workers had reawakened an ancient vampire who lived inside the tunnel and who caused it to collapse as revenge against the workers for disturbing him. Survivors of the tunnel collapse allegedly discovered the vampire crouching over one of the victims and baring his bloody, jagged teeth. In another version, there was just one survivor, and after the tunnel collapsed, a vampire emerged to the surface with skin hanging from his body, also with jagged teeth. The bloody creature made a run for it towards the river. Witnesses said they chased it, but it disappeared. Over the years, several attempts were made to recover the locomotive and the 2 bodies, but were impeded each time by sinkholes and additional collapses. The tunnel was eventually sealed off with sand and concrete, and it remains the final resting place of the train and the workers. Throughout the tunnel's lifespan, at least 9 people lost their lives to similar circumstances as the 2 men who were supposedly victimized by the vampire. Scientists say it's unlikely that supernatural forces of any type are at play, but that people died because the tunnel was built among clay and soft sandstone and was therefore not structurally sound. Number 7. Leamington Spa Station. Considered one of Britain's most haunted buildings, Leamington Spa Station was built in the 1880s. For years, staff and commuters alike have reported paranormal sightings and activity. In 2014, a worker claimed to witness an invisible force slamming doors, turning lights on and off, and throwing paperwork around. The disturbing activity reached a point where Chiltern Railways hired a supernatural liaison officer to watch out for ghosts on the platforms and in the station. In 2016, journalist Chloe Mason spoke with the supernatural liaison officer Nick Reese, who told her that the ghosts were mostly friendly and had good energy, and that he was accustomed to hearing footsteps at the site. One of the creepiest parts of the property is an abandoned basement on one of the platforms, which contains a partially sealed-off staircase leading to nowhere. One staff member told Mason that they had seen doors slam out of nowhere, and a night patrolman described Leamington Spa Station as one of the most haunted places out of many that he has been to in his lifetime. Number 6. Hotel del Salto. This beautiful hotel is also known for tragedy. Located in San Antonio del Tequendama, Colombia, the Hotel del Salto was originally built as an upscale residence for architect Carlos Arturo Tapias in 1923. Also called the Mansion of Tequendama Falls, it features high windows and luxurious French architecture reflecting the style of society's elite at the time. The building became a hotel for wealthy travelers in 1928 so that people could visit the falls, and it remained in business for the next 60 or so years. Plans to rebuild an 18-story structure in the Hotel del Salto's place never came to be, and over the years the original structure fell into disrepair, and rumors spread that perhaps the place was haunted and the water was contaminated. After the hotel closed and was abandoned during the 1990s, it gained notoriety for the number of suicides that had allegedly happened there over the years. Consequently, the property gained a reputation for being haunted. Local legend holds that the indigenous Muisca people jumped from the top of the falls when the Spanish conquered the area, choosing to end their own lives rather than become slaves. When they fell, they would transform into an eagle and fly to freedom. In modern times, the story attracted other sad souls who would leap off the cliffs. Today, researchers are hoping to change the site's reputation and turn it into a museum as a symbol of cultural heritage and biodiversity. And now for number 5. But first, have you ever visited somewhere haunted? Did you see anything scary? Let me know in the comments below. And I wanted to give a big shout out to William Egan and Silent Watch. Thanks so much for supporting this channel. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already to join the Origins Explained family. Number 5. Room 873. Known for being one of Canada's most beautiful hotels, the Fairmont Banff Springs Hotel in Alberta was built in 1888 as a luxury retreat for wealthy travelers. Nestled among the Canadian Rockies, it's hosted numerous famous visitors, including Marilyn Monroe, Helen Keller, and Queen Elizabeth II. But the hotel has a dark side despite its grandeur and prestige. Rumor has it that it even inspired Stephen King's The Shining. According to legend, a man murdered his wife and daughter before committing suicide in room 873. Guests who stayed in the room after the tragedy reported terrifying paranormal encounters, including blood-curdling screams in the middle of the night, lights turning on and off by themselves, and bloody fingerprints on the bathroom mirror. The hotel supposedly closed off the room in an attempt to stop the ongoing horror, leaving adventurous modern-day guests without the option to stay in room 873. Employees chalk these claims up to being nothing more than a fantastical ghost story and say that the murder-suicide never happened. But the hotel's 8th floor is the only level with no rooms ending in 73. In the area where room 873 would be, guests have noticed that there's a baseboard missing where a door would have been, and an unusually large gap between rooms 871 and 875. Above the missing baseboard, there is a lamp like the ones that hang over the doors to other rooms, except there is no door. Project engineer-writer Bernie Rozecki noticed on the hotel's floor plan that the area that would normally contain room 873 is encompassed by room 875, which is larger than the other rooms on the floor. He asked the concierge about this, and the employee explained in what Rozecki called a well-trained response that the two rooms were combined during a renovation. How convenient. Many people do not buy the hotel's official position that the murder-suicide story is a hoax. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Number 4. New Bedford Orpheum Theater. The Orpheum Theater opened in New Bedford, Massachusetts on April 15, 1912, the same day the Titanic sank. Originally named the Majestic Opera House, it seated an audience of 1,500 and was designed to include a ballroom, a shooting range, retail space, a gym, and more. During the 1920s, it began featuring motion pictures. It's believed that the Orpheum Theater is among the oldest in the nation, second only to the Orpheum Theater in Los Angeles. The New Bedford Orpheum closed sometime in 1958 or 59 and was only used for special occasions. In 1962, the French Sharpshooters Club sold it to a tobacco company that used it for storage. Today, the building is privately owned by the nonprofit Orpheum Rising Project Helpers, which is dedicated to restoring the theater, but so far it remains empty. Many believe that it's haunted, but it's hard to say what exactly goes on there. Another haunted place in Bedford is the New Bedford Armory. The National Guard asked the Ghost Hunters team to come and debunk claims that the armory was haunted. The team went in to spend the night, and around midnight the sound man was suddenly knocked to the ground. He said he felt cold and that something grabbed him. He apparently quit after the episode. This town has a lot of ghosts and spirits roaming around. Number 3. Eastern State Penitentiary. Located in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the Eastern State Penitentiary, or ESP, is a former prison that some consider to be the most haunted correctional facility in the United States. During its operating years from 1829 to 1971, it became infamous for its use of solitary confinement and housed some of history's most notorious criminals, including Al Capone and bank robber Willie Sutton. The prison went down in history for a slew of terrible things, including suicide, murder, insanity, disease, and torture. Inmates endured unimaginably harsh punishments, including something called the water bath, which involved being submerged in water and left in the winter cold until ice formed on their bodies. Prisoners were also tightly bound to the mad chair, cutting off their circulation to the point where amputations were sometimes necessary. There was also the iron gag, which involved tying an inmate's hands behind their back and forcing them to wear an iron collar that would tear their tongue and mouth and cause them to bleed if they tried to move. Perhaps the worst punishment inflicted upon prisoners was the hole, a pitch-dark underground cell that took sensory deprivation to a whole new level, affording no human contact, no toilet, and little food and air to the unfortunate soul locked inside. The prison scaled back on solitary confinement in 1913 due to overcrowding and ultimately closed in 1971. Ever since, it's been a popular attraction among history and paranormal enthusiasts alike, since so many horrible things happened here. Stories of hauntings date back to the 1940s and bear eerie similarities, with certain parts of the prison being known for specific supernatural activities. In cell block 12, for example, visitors, staff, and inmates have all reported hearing echoing voices and laughing, while ghostly faces are known to grace the halls of cell block 4. Stories of other strange sights and sounds abound. Tour guides are not so quick to label the site as haunted, as Ben Bookman told NPR, explaining that they do not want to exploit the prison's dark image, and pointing out that the prisoners who suffered there were real people, and that it's important not to make fun of or glorify their experiences. Number 2. The Queen Mary. The RMS Queen Mary is a retired British ocean liner that is permanently docked in Long Beach, California. From 1936 to 1967, the vessel carried some 2.2 million passengers across the Atlantic from Europe to North America, with the exception of its years of service as a troop ship during World War II. The ship boasted 5 dining areas and lounges, 2 cocktail bars, 2 swimming pools, a grand ballroom, a squash court, and a small hospital. Today, the vessel is a floating hotel and haunted attraction with 3 restaurants and a wedding hall. Guests at the hotel experience the opportunity to not only be surrounded by the original wood paneling and portholes, but to perhaps encounter one of the ship's long-gone passengers in ghost form. In 2008, Time magazine included the Queen Mary on its top 10 haunted places list, which describes the ghost of a sailor who died in the ship's engine room, children who drowned in the pool, and a woman known as the Lady in White. Guests who dare and who are willing to shell out a pretty penny can stay in the vessel's most haunted rooms, including stateroom B340, where a man died of unknown causes in 1948. Ever since, passengers and staff alike have experienced apparitions of a man who disappears into thin air, the bed covers being suddenly pulled off by an invisible force, strange knocking on the door at night, and the bathroom sink left running despite no recent guests staying in the room. There is also the Mauritania room, where 3 maids watched a woman vanish before their eyes in 1989, the pool where people have seen a woman in a tennis skirt disappear, as well as a lady in an old-fashioned wedding gown standing next to a little boy in a suit. These are just some of the paranormal hotspots on the Queen Mary, where it seems like there is a ghost around every corner. Number 1. Dragsholm Castle. Nestled among meadows and lakes on the Danish island of Zealand, Dragsholm Castle was built as a palace in 1215 by the Bishop of Roskilde. It's one of Denmark's oldest secular buildings. During the Middle Ages, the structure was converted into a fortified castle. Then it was seized by the crown as part of the Reformation, and from 1536 to 1664, it served as a prison for nobility and clergy members. The castle changed hands several times after that, and was even restored after an attempt was made to destroy it. There are said to be over 100 ghosts lurking throughout Dragsholm Slot. One of them is James Hepburn, the 4th Earl of Bothwell and the 3rd husband to Mary, Queen of Scots. He was imprisoned at the castle in 1573 and was fed just enough food and water to stay alive, according to legend. He went insane and died sometime between 1576 and 1578. Modern-day visitors have reported seeing him ride into the courtyard on his horse. Another ghost, known as the White Lady, was imprisoned by her own father in one of the castle's dungeons after becoming pregnant by a commoner. People have reported seeing a woman in a white dress wandering the castle at night in search of her long-lost lover and occasionally moaning in sorrow. If you dare to step foot inside the castle, who knows who else you might find. Thanks for watching! Which place did you think was the scariest? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time! Bye!